So I just got back from watching Thor: Love and Thunder, and I'm just gonna say I really love the movie. I especially love the message that it had of like love and friendship and stuff like that. I thought that was really great. I read this article or this study about how it is more difficult for people to make or keep friends as they grow older. Just kind of thinking about it, like why would that be? I understand that a lot of it might have to be with like how life works out sometimes. Sometimes, you know, people move away for like careers, people have jobs, join the military, all kinds of things happen in life where we kind of just start to drift away from people as opposed to when we're teenagers and we really don't have much to do, so we can just like hang out with people like anytime we want. I also think that it's also has to do a little bit with like how technology works, right? I think technology has kind of played a part in kind of making us more apart when it should have like brought us close together. Again, I'm gonna be showing here my age, but I remember when the first cell phones came out and they had a green screen, all right, and you had the ability to text, but nobody texts because it was so difficult to text with those things. You're like, yeah, it was weird. So the only thing you could do was like either you could call someone or you could play Snake. That's it. That's it. All right. That's all you could do with your phone. And I think that was enough because now you had an ability to communicate with people, family or friends and stuff like that, to where before in the past, you either had to be home or you had to catch the person home. And before that, you like write letters? Like how would you communicate with someone living in another state? You'd have to write them letters and then wait for that letter to come back a month later and stuff like that. So in a way, I think that technology did bring us together, as in the part that it gave us the ability to reach people quicker, right? We thought about someone, we just called them up, we talked to them and stuff like that. And I think one of the valuable things about that phone call is that it was a great way to communicate because you had to pick up the phone and call the person, right? And then on the other end, they had to pick it up. So in a way, you were communicating to that person, hey, I thought about you, man, to like call you up. And then that person responded. And then like social media happened, right? Where like Facebook and MySpace and Instagram and all this other stuff now. So it was supposed to make friendships a little bit more efficient, I think. But I think it kind of like grew further apart in a way. Now it's kind of like this marketing and advertisement dystopian landscape. And it's kind of weird and that's kind of sad because the original intention was to bring people closer together. And I think it's kind of taken us apart because one, people share and express ideas now on text, which doesn't really have that same impact. I feel like for a lot of people, it's a lot easier to disrespect other people because they're doing it via text message or they're doing it as a post where they don't have to be direct in who they tell people. They can just put it out in the internet. There's a lot of ways where this can be miscommunicated. Also, if you also think about someone and you want to check on them, a lot of times, you know, your phone just allows you to like just look at their Instagram or whatever, or their profile, and you see that they posted up a picture. Oh, they're doing great. Awesome. Happy for them, right? But that person probably doesn't know that you, other than that, maybe that like or that share or whatever, that maybe that person didn't get that message. Whereas with the phone call, they got the message that you were thinking about that person, right? Or that person, or that you went out of your way to acknowledge that the person existed, right? We as humans, we need that interaction. We need that kind of friendship and that kind of interactions because, and it always goes back to like the brain chemicals, right? I think that brain is the brain is such an amazing thing, right? It releases four like hormones or four neurotransmitters that are responsible for you feeling good. Again, guys, I'm not a neuroscientist or whatever, anything here, man. I do have a degree in psychology and a minor in sociology, and I did work at a psych hospital. But again, I'm not an expert, right? This is just fun for me. But anyways, your brain releases this one thing called oxytocin, right? And it's called the love hormone or the love neurotransmitter. What it does, it makes you feel good. And the way that it's triggered and released into your brain is when you're around people that you care about, or by touch, right? When you're being touched, a hug or a kiss or something. That's the way that is released. But you also get smaller doses when you are around people who know your name, who understand you, and you feel accepted. You also release it when you recognize familiarity. So that's where that phone call came in place, right? You talk to someone, and that the sound of their voice, right? It triggers that release of oxytocin, if it's just a little bit. If you guys can think about like a lunch that you had with a friend that you hadn't seen in forever, and or you had a barbecue with family that you haven't seen in forever, or you just had a phone call from someone you haven't seen in forever, talked to in forever. Just think about that, and think about how great you felt afterwards, like that release, right? And I think that that's freaking awesome, and I think that's freaking fantastic. I love how the brain works. And the reason I'm telling you guys all this is because today's story is going to be about a couple of friends, except of course this is going to be about horror. All right, there's going to be a horror take on it. So enough of that kumbaya shit. Let's talk some horror. All right, guys. So today's tale is going to come from Tales from the Crypt. All right, this is number 41, and I love this cover. It's covered by Jack Davis, and there's actually something that does happen in one of the other stories. So maybe I'll do that one next. But the first one we're going to be talking about is called Operation Friendship. Guys, so this got this weird, story coming out of here. We got the Crypt Keeper here. We start off here with this small panel right here. This guy, his name is Andrew, right? And you see him smoking his pipe, chilling. He's playing chess. You can't see who the other chess player is, right? Which is already kind of a bad sign, And here you got him like just kind of talking about him and his friend Phil, right? It's like, hey man, you and me and Phil, man, we've always been like two peas in a pod. We've always been like peas and carrots or whatever. We've always been tight, and that's what we're talking about. Very similar ever since they were kids. Here we go down memory lane. As they get older, Phil used to stick up for his buddy Andrew, and you kind of go down to where they go to high school together and everything. And it's like, and this is where it starts getting a little bit weird, right? I was like, yeah, like even in high school, like the prettiest girls try to like pull us apart, but that never happened. I'm like, all right, bro, that's a little weird. I mean, it's good to have like a little bit of bromance, bro, but that's a little weird, man. And then you get on the other side, right? This is right here where they talk about none of the girls understood as Phil. They couldn't. Their cheap thrills of dating and petting were as sawdust to the platonic ecstasy of our embracing minds. So again, guys, this was written like 1953 or 52 or something like that. So a completely different era when it came to things like LGBT and homosexuality, dude. So I'm pretty sure like EC didn't even cross that line, right? Because they wanted to make sure that it was platonic ecstasy. Wink, wink. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink, buddy. This is where they get to the part where they go to college, right? One guy ends up going to medicine. The other guy ends up going to electronics, right? So the guy that's playing chess and telling us a story, Andrew, he decides to do medicine, and his buddy Phil decides to go into electronics. All right, and that's important, guys. That's important to the story. So we're going to get closer into the end. So they go to the same college, but they're studying different things, and they couldn't be exactly the same, but they're still kind of the same. And they work together, and they work on some stuff where they're trying to building a big machine, and then they're trying to keep it alive with electrodes in his head. So they're basically finding ways to keep things alive using technology and medicine. So they're kind of combining their powers like Captain Planet and stuff. And then they graduate, and everything's going good and everything. And then they get to the part where these guys were like always together, always playing chess and everything. And then he's like, then something went wrong. I noticed that something was going wrong. He's like, I noticed that you were moodier and everything. And I was like, there's something coming in between us. Like, he was really passionate about that, right? And then finally, Phil said, hey, man, I met a girl. I'm in love, bro. Like, it's time to peace out. You know what I mean? And we get it. Like, that's part of growing up. As far as like friends and stuff, and like homies, you grow up with all these dudes. But then people start to fall apart once people start in their families, they start dating and serious relationships and stuff. So it's a normal part of growing up and going further apart, right? But Andrew does not take this very well. Andrew does not like that one bit. He's like, hell no, they can't pull us apart. What are you doing to us? And, Phil's like, man, this has never been like that, bro. It's never been like that. So you can kind of see that, Andrew's got like a little bit of attachment. I mean, you might even say he's like, maybe he's in love with Phil, bro. Like, I don't know, man. Like, you might say that he is pretty much obsessed with Phil. And when he sees the chick, you can just see him. It's like, oh my God, I hate her or whatever. So you can kind of tell that this is not going in a very good direction, right? Because when your homie gets married, you're supposed to be happy for him. Like, hey, bro, man, wish you the best, wish you wealth, wish you health, and all that good stuff, right? But he was furious. He was crying and everything, bro. Like, it was bad. He was like, I've been experimenting on brains, lobotomies. And back in the 50s, man, lobotomies was like all the rage, man. Like, it's once we came to psychology. Like, now we know that they were pretty much worthless. You're basically just poking a hole in their brain for no reason. But like back in the day, I think it came out from like early psychology thoughts where like somebody was crazy. So it was just like the pressure in the brain. So you just knock a little hole in their cranium, and then maybe the evil spirits will escape. Now we know all that's bullshit, right? But back in the day, that was like cutting edge, stuff that in psychology. Phil finally says, bro, I've had enough of your shit. I don't want this no more. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to marry this woman, and there's nothing you can stop me. And Andrew continues like, man, that woman's wasting your life. I'm going to give you a warning. Don't ever do that. And he's like, if you keep up with that woman, let her drag you down to her moronic depths, you will be degrading yourself. So again, this guy's a little sexist too, man, because he's thinking that, only he is smart enough to hang with Phil, because only he stimulates Phil. They stimulate each other as far as like brains. They challenge each other and everything. And that's, I think, the whole part of it where Andrew really enjoyed that friendship with him. And he's saying that his new wife cannot replace that because she's like dumb or whatever. And the guy's like, no, I'm doing it. I'm getting out of here. But before he leaves, Andrew, that's when he gets a little sneaky. He's like, oh, man, come on. Man, I got something. It's all good, right? He plays a little role where everything's cool, man. He's like, come over here. I got something to show you. I need your expertise on that and tell me what you're doing. He's like, I've been relating on some theories about brain surgery or something like that. And it's like, I'm ready to perform my first 75% lobotomy. All I need is a patient, huh, Andy? This was like back in time. Then you move forward back to forward time when they're like older men and stuff like that. And that's when you kind of see that, Jandra and Philip, they come to visit him, and it's like old times. And you can already tell that Jandra doesn't really like. Jandra, by the way, is Philip's new wife. She doesn't like this new guy, Andrew, whatever, man. Because obviously the guy's always been like, had ill will towards her and stuff. So they kind of like come in, they visit him, but it's kind of dull. He doesn't really entertain them. He's like, man, this is stupid. You know what I mean? And then they leave. And then he lets them go into, their car, whatever. Everything seems cool and everything. But then, as soon as the door shuts, he goes in there. This is where you start getting a little bit of revelation. Philip, I don't think Jandra noticed the least difference when she came home from that visit to her family 20 years ago. She still has things she wants of her husband, the physical things, but perfectly satisfied with your body and 25% of your brain. And I've got the real you, Philip, the important part of your brain, your creative, artistic part. The brain floated lazily in the jar of amber liquid, and so the years stretch happily ahead of us, Philip. You and I together till death in mental companionship. Dr. Hobart flipped on the voice amplifier switch for the first time that evening and tuned in the volume. All right, Philip, go ahead and rant and rave. And then Philip's like, oh God, why did you do it? Why? I loved her. I was so happy with her. Why didn't you believe me? And then he's like, Dr. Hobart shook his head, smiling warmly. Don't be a fool. Why must you always go through this? Every night before we settle down to a nice quiet evening, I did this for your own good. I rescued you from that nitwit female. Why, if you had gone on living with her for the past 20 years, you would have lost your mind. And this is why I freaking love these comics, man. These older comics, because they put in like this. That's a joke, dude. And it's kind of subtle, but it's also kind of there. You know what I mean? It's you who lost your mind, Andrew. You're mad, 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 mad. Dr. Humber reached for the voice amplifier switch, and the brain seemed to twist slightly as it floated buoyantly in the jar. So again, I love the language that they use, like buoyantly. I can't even pronounce that shit. That's like way beyond my education, I guess. But I love that they use this type of language. Oh, I read somewhere and said that comic books use more unique words than children's books and stuff. So I think that this is very good. And then they go back to like arguing. Once that's all over, they go back to arguing and playing their game. No, it's your move. It's my move. You know what I mean? And then we get the nice Crypt Keeper. Ha ha. How was that about a wedding of the mind? Certainly sounds like the Mad Doctor and his bottled brain are married. So, again, this was kind of, a weird story, right? Where it's like two friends. And again, it doesn't have a happy ending like a lot of the EC books. As a matter of fact, all of them. But it's kind of have a little bit of a humor twist to it in the way they use their words. I freaking love the art in here. How they use a lot of the art to tell the story. I think the expressions in these Golden Age books is very awesome. Like, check out this face, dude. Look at these poses. I just freaking love this art, man. You could tell that they really worked their magic on this as well. So yeah, man, I love these Golden Age horror. Yeah, that's it for this week's EC horror classics, man. I see you guys on the next one. Hopefully I get better at telling you guys these stories. All right, peace.